modification of probation, and I help people with their criminal background, their records, sealing and expunging. I did a presentation about 3-4 months ago. So anybody have any questions? I'm a Reentry Paralegal. I work for the Criminal Justice, the CJC, Criminal Justice Commission. I work in the Public Defender's Office, and I help people re-enter back into the life after, prison or jail.
Yes, once a person go through the process and say that they qualify and they, meet the standard and they comply with everything they're supposed to comply with. When I think some people get it misunderstood when you seal and you expunge, does that eliminate everybody from looking at what's there? Or could you explain that? Or I mean, who has the right to see it, or is it just off limits to everybody? Or
well, to be completely honest with you, nothing is ever sealed. Okay. Nothing is ever expunged. There's always going to be some type of record of it.
Right.
Law enforcement, you understand that. Anybody that works in the judicial system understands that. It's always going to be some type of record. There's always going to be some type of way or entity that somebody can get that. Even for juveniles, I actually do that as well. I went to Pahokee High Middle School about 2 weeks ago, and I did a presentation on sealing and expunging juvenile backgrounds, and that's a little different.
Yes. Can we have that? It's a felony, but not a greater felony.
If he was adjudicated delinquent as a juvenile, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the answer?
If he was adjudicated delinquent as a juvenile between the ages of 24 and 26, his record can be possibly automatically sealed or expunged by FDLE, despite him not getting in any more trouble. And at that point, if he goes to a facility, if he's at that facility, he doesn't apply to 5 years after he's 21, which at that point, that will put him between that 24 and 26 age.
Now, Mr. Bailey, she said charged as an adult.
She said charged
between the two. You can't be charged as an adult and then convicted as delinquent. That doesn't. That's two different things.
That's what she said happened. I'm answering her question.
No, you can't. It's impossible. Once you're charged as an adult and you're convicted as an adult.
I'm not saying she's right or wrong. I'm just answering her question on how she asked me.
Okay, but the real deal is if you're charged as an adult, you are not adjudicated delinquent. You can be given youthful offender sanctions, but you're still treated as an adult. So that's an adult conviction, an adult record. And if you have a conviction as an adult, you cannot have anything expunged or sealed.
No, you can't. No, you can't. But I was just answering your question, but you got confused, but I just answered it. Like, look.
Throw everybody out.
But anybody have any more questions?
Is there any efforts to communicate that kind of what you're talking about to those that are most affected inside of the community? Is there any vehicles that you have that communicate?
Yeah, I actually have cards, and I actually do advocate around. I'm supposed to be going to Boynton High, Boynton Middle in a couple weeks. I'm helping Workforce Alliance out in Boca, West Palm, and in Belgrade about the whole sealing and expunging process.
My reason for asking is because I could talk to you and I had been telling people about that, but I didn't hear it nowhere else. So I was wondering if you had some kind of way I could tap into.
Right, I do. Like I said, I can give you my information back. Question? Yes, ma'am. Yes, I can provide you a website.
I was going to ask, can you give us your contact information?
Yes, ma'am, I do have plenty of cards. Question?
There was a website that you said that folks who have been arrested can go to see if they...
I can give you that.
I'll write your contact information up on the whiteboard and they can write it down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. And also, if you're interested in getting more information specifically on the issues with juveniles, if you go to the school district's website, there's a live cast of Mr. Bailey's presentation and Pahokee Middle Senior on the issue of juvenile sealing and expungement, and how basically nothing's ever really sealed or expunged. Okay, that's my opinion. Well, thank you, Mr. Bailey. If we can show the issue that we're going to have to continue to revisit, because if you're like me, I need a chart, because I still don't get it. I've spent hours learning this. I still don't really get it. But anyway, we'll continue to work on it and spread the word to point people to Mr. Bailey to try to assist in getting their rights restored. So we're going to move on the agenda.
Excuse me, Dr. Robinson?
Yes,
a solution to that problem might be, we don't want to overwhelm the attorney that we have here today, but if we can get some more community attorneys to commit to maybe some volunteer time or something, because we probably need those kind of people that know the specifics. So when people have questions, you're gonna have a lot of people in the community that don't have the wherewithal or the knowledge, and they're really gonna need to be able to access the correct information. So attorneys that have been in the system for a while, that have been here in our community, whether it's public defender or the state attorney's office, they might be able to help out also, I'm sure. If we can get them to give us some access on a pro bono basis, that might be the way to go. We might want to put some information out, a request like that out.
Well, I don't have any objection to asking anybody for help. But personally, I would like to use the resources you named to keep people from being charged and found guilty on crack. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't have my vocabulary on today, but seriously. So, but we do need to work on it on both ends. So we're going to move on the agenda, and now we're going to have Lia Gaines who's going to make a presentation from the subcommittee from Occupied.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm really happy that so many people showed out. We've been meeting here before Saturday at noon, pretty much since prior to the election. And we really felt that we needed to focus on some issues that came up during our efforts to register people, and that was how we can work with one, restoring the civil rights of individuals who have been previously incarcerated, and also how we can make sure that those people also have a right to employment so that they won't go back to prison. So this is why we're here today, and Occupy the Community asked for a committee of individuals, and everyone is welcome to come join us, to put their heads together and come back and make some recommendations to the full coalition about really what can we start with. Because we really feel that this is a great organizing tool for the community, and we believe that even though the United Nations will be very helpful in shining that spotlight on the state of Florida, that it's really going to be the people that are affected. It's going to take them to really have the initiative to start with the change. And so I'd like to invite all of you to invite more members here to come, family members, particularly persons who have been formerly incarcerated, if you know of them, so that they can get involved. And with what we've been doing, Carlton, is at every meeting we do have a session and a portion of the meeting that's dedicated to restoring the civil rights of individuals who have been previously incarcerated.
Okay.
So what the committee initially did was, and I should have brought additional copies for everyone. That was our notes from our last meeting. But basically, we looked at several documents. We looked at a document called Few Felons Regain Right to Vote in Florida. We also looked at the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, of which we are now in the process of becoming members of. And we looked at one document that was very helpful called State Reforms Promoting Employment of People with Criminal Records. This was a collaboration of the National Employment Law Project, the National Hire Network, and the Sentencing Project. And it basically catalogs all of the reforms across the country for the 2010-2011 legislative sessions. So we had an opportunity to actually go through all of those reforms, and we selected some that we thought we could start with here. And we wanted to start with the best models that we could select, so we could really have something to work towards. We also wanted to bring attention to the fact that this work really is political in nature. By political, I don't mean you have to be a Democrat or a Republican. What I mean is that it's going to take us to organize our communities. It's going to take a lot of advocacy. It's going to take a lot of lobbying, so to speak, for legislation, for changes in legislations. Because it is not a coincidence that when the Clemency Board met in 2010 and they selected 5- and 7-year wait periods before people can actually apply to have their rights restored. And that's because they want to continue to suppress voters and to reduce the numbers of voters through the next election cycle. So you all need to be aware of that. So there is a political reality to all of this. That was done, as far as I'm concerned, with a stroke of the pen. That change was made, and now individuals have to wait 5 to 7 years. Occupy the Community thinks it's more appropriate for wait times to be attached to expungement of convictions. We are pushing for expungement to be broadened so that it can remove convictions in the state of Florida with, we think, reasonable wait periods based on the level of conviction. This is done throughout the nation, and many places there are 5-year wait times for lower level convictions and 10-year wait times for more serious convictions. So we had some recommendations that we shared with our local legislative delegation in that regard. Of course, no wait time for anything that is null pros, that means that has not been prosecuted or moved forward. For withheld adjudications, we were recommending at least 3 years wait time, 5-year for lower level, and 10-year for more serious convictions. This is important because this affects people's right to employment. We also looked at ban the box, and we selected the state of Massachusetts to model or to advocate for modeling legislation here, and I'm glad to see some local city officials here as well, because the ban the box initiatives do not just have to rest or be enacted at the state level. They can be enacted at the local level as well, the city level through ordinances, and also with the county. And our colleague, Mr. Alex Ring, who is the political director of Florida Public Service Union, can share with us some of the organizing efforts that we can really commit to today to see that those changes are made. But to begin with, we'd like to give a shout out to Senator Chris Smith, who last year sponsored legislation, Senate Bill 146, which amended Florida statute to prevent a state agency from denying an application for licensing or employment based solely on the applicant's lack of voting rights. The name of this bill that became law is the Jim King Keeping. However, isn't it ironic that we can get the state legislature to support putting people to work for their employment needs, but not allowing them to vote? So this law allows people who have not had their civil rights restored to at least look at what are those prohibitions for the various occupations, and really finding out what can be done to remove them. This was a directive through this legislation to look at all the subdivisions of the state as well. That's county and cities as well. But we're not really sure if this information is getting out to the counties and the cities. And we don't really know if there's been any reporting back. So I'm hoping that Representative Powell or representatives from Senator Clemens' office today can give us an update as to how this particular law is being enacted, what has been reported, how many different occupations bar folks who have past convictions, and what is being done to remove those. And we're hoping that there's an opportunity to expand that law to actually enact